process this summer. Okay, next slide, please. One of the things we always like to do on these Leader College calls is we like to give shout-outs to those colleges that have been doing things that exhibit the enthusiasm and commitment they have and the leadership they wish to show for the student success and completion agenda. So today what we wanted to do was to acknowledge the numerous Achieving the Dream colleges, Leader colleges as well as other colleges who presented at AACC and also the League for Innovation conferences that were both convened in the last several months. I went to the AACC convention and was just so impressed by how many times Achieving the Dream was mentioned from the podium, how many times Achieving the Dream colleges were presenting and sharing their stories, how many times people were coming up to the Achieving the Dream institutions asking for more information and referrals to how to join the network. Thank you so much for being willing to share what you're learning how to do and being willing to convey your deep, deep commitment to the student success and completion agenda. At the AACC event, there was a special award ceremony. It turns out that AACC had established a new program this year to recognize colleges that were practicing their work in such a way that they aligned with key recommendations coming out of AACC's 21st Century Commission on the Future of Community Colleges. And there were 25 colleges, I believe, that were nominated in 5 different categories. It turns out that while 9 of the nominees were Achieving the Dream colleges, 3 of the 5 winners were Achieving the Dream colleges. So we couldn't be happier for the 3 listed here. Cuyahoga, Harper, and Miami-Dade all won in the class they were nominated in, and they really reflected their own work and the work of the Achieving the Dream Network in very, very positive ways. So congratulations to those of you who were nominated, and especially to those of you who secured the ultimate recognition by getting the award. With that, we want to turn over to the program for today. We are very, very, very pleased that we've got Daniel Maxey with us today. Daniel is with the Delphi Project, which is researching and documenting changes in the professorate and collecting strategies that are helping to support the changing workforce that we're finding in higher ed. We're hopeful, we're not sure if it'll happen, it looks like it may happen, that Barbara Small will join us. I see she is on the names of people who's on our webinar. Barb is Associate Dean at Harper College, and she's going to be able to tell us some of the things that she's been doing on a very practical level at her college. She's just hot out of the dentist seat, so we're hoping that the dentist appointment went well, Barbara, and that the Novocaine's wearing off and you're going to be able to communicate well with us today on the call. Before Daniel and Barbara get started, though, I just wanted to mention that we have 15 colleges in the ATD network that have received special grants via the Walmart grants program that we have at ATD. They are working on trying to deepen and broaden faculty and staff engagement in their institutions. And they are also trying to break down any of the silos that exist across their campuses that sometimes separate the work that's being done by the faculty and by the staff. Those colleges have a commitment to be sharing what they're learning in the process of doing that work. Some of them are on the call, and we hope that if you are on the call and working on the Walmart Press for completion work, that you will feel free to raise your hand and contribute to today's conversation. If you're interested in learning more about the work of those 15 colleges, you can go to our website, and you'll find that there's a tab there where you can get to the grant program under initiatives, and you'll see more about their work. But with that, I'd like to turn the microphone over to Daniel and invite you to please share with all of us some of the exciting work you're doing, and of course working with Barb to make it very practical as well. So go ahead, Dan.
Great. Thank you everyone for joining us today for the webinar and for your interest really in participating in a discussion about providing some additional support for adjunct faculty on your campuses. I also want to thank Carol, Sarah, and the staff at Achieving the Dream for allowing the Delphi Project to be a part of this work today. So to get started here, I'll go over the agenda for this portion of the webinar. I'm going to give a brief introduction to the Delphi Project. Carol has explained a little bit of our work so far, but I'll give you a little bit more information there. In the second part of the webinar here, I'll discuss some of the connections between adjunct working conditions and the types of situations that adjunct faculty often face in the workplace to student learning and other student outcomes. I will also begin a brief exploration of a case from our example practices database. As Carol mentioned, we will have a little bit of a discussion about some of the work that's going on at Harper College in Illinois. This is one of the first cases that we've profiled in our new example practices database, and we're really excited to have this case to be part of our work and part of our portfolio. One of the things that we're trying to do is make sure that we can take good example practices from around the country, and so far Achieving the Dream colleges have offered us a lot of really good examples to begin to share those with other colleges around the country who are beginning to think about how they can better support their adjunct faculty. So I'm glad that Barb is able to be on the call with us today, and we will have a little bit of a discussion around some of what they've done and some of the benefits that they've had, and then we'll open up the discussion and have a broader conversation with all of you about some of the work that you've done, some of the work that you'd like to try to do, and see where we can come together and help out with that. So Sarah, if you can advance to the next slide.
Yeah, and Dan, when Dan and I were putting this presentation together, one of the things that we thought would kind of take the temperature here would be to run a short poll just to kind of get a sense of the percentage of courses that are taught by adjunct faculty at the colleges on the call. So I'm going to go ahead and just run two short polls just to, as I said, kind of take our temperature. So go ahead and launch this first one.
So as Sarah mentioned, we'll start with a couple of poll questions here just so that we can have a sense of the adjunct faculty populations that you all are working with in your college's developmental education and math and English gateway courses. So there are two questions, I believe, here, Sarah. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
The first one is, yeah, you should see it on your screen now, and it's what percentage of your college's developmental education courses are taught by adjunct faculty? And if you could go ahead and enter your answers there, that would be great. I see about 59% have voted, so we'll wait a few more seconds and then move on to the next poll. A few more seconds and then I'll go ahead and close the poll. Okay. I'll go ahead and share the results there. Dan, do you want to comment a little bit, or?
Yeah, this is about where I would expect to see these numbers, and I'll say a little bit about sort of the trend, some of the trend data that we have after we go through the two polls. But 40 to 60 and the more than 60 sounds about correct for the sort of a population of colleges.
Great. I'm going to go ahead and launch the next one. There you go. If everybody could go ahead and put their votes in. there. About 65% have voted. Could get a few more votes in before we close the poll. Okay, great.
So on these, these two polls, I think the second one, we're seeing a fairly large chunk of 40 to 60% for the Math and English Gateway courses. Among the data that we have about non-tenure track faculty, and when I say, you'll hear me say non-tenure track faculty a few times during this call, and Sarah asked me to make sure that I sort of clarify what I mean by that. When I say non-tenure track faculty, I'll generally be talking about sort of a mix of full-time and part-time. So your full-time instructors, but also your adjunct faculty on your campuses. We often don't have a lot of data from colleges at this level that would tell us which types of courses adjuncts are teaching more of, or sort of what the difference is on different campuses, colleges and universities, as to whether the number of courses or the number of students and credit hours that are being taught by adjunct faculty versus tenured or full-time faculty. So it's good to see data like this to get a sense of where you're at. As I mentioned sort of on the first poll there, these numbers aren't particularly surprising to me, but the trend data that we see nationwide shows that we've had a major swing in the numbers of non-tenure track faculty versus tenured and tenure track faculty on campuses across the higher education sector, across all institution types. And in 1969, we basically had about 80% of the faculty were in tenured or tenure track positions, and those numbers have essentially flipped. As of 2009, 33.5% of the faculty nationwide across institution types, again, were in tenured or tenure track positions, and closer to 67, 70% of the faculty held non-tenure track positions. Again, that's the full-time and the part-time positions. We often hear from community colleges numbers that are closer to 80% non-tenure track, so again, full-time and part-time. Although I've heard numbers from colleges that we've worked with and met around the country as high as 96%. So roughly 50% across the entire system hold part-time positions, and as you can see in the two polls that we had there, a lot of those instructors are teaching developmental courses, courses for underclassmen at institutions, sometimes the developmental courses that we know are very important for student learning and student success. So we feel it's very important to make sure that we are providing adequate support to those faculty so that they can be prepared and able to really offer the best support and instruction to their students in the classroom. So I'll give you a little bit of a brief summary of the Delphi Project here. The Delphi Project on the Changing Faculty and Student Success is an initiative of the Pullias Center for Higher Education at the University of Southern California. It was started by my colleague, Dr. Adriana Kizar, and began with three main foci. So to better understand some of what we're doing here, I'll just sort of go through three of those. Our first goal was to better understand the factors that have led to a majority of adjunct faculty members among the professoriate to be off the tenure track. We also wanted to examine the impact of rising contingency on teaching and learning. And we also wanted to begin to work with a wide range of partners, organizations, and also campuses across higher education to begin to develop some strategies to address some of the problems that have emerged in a collaborative way. Currently, those strategies include providing data, resources, and toolkits to facilitate change, but we will also shortly begin some work to try to work with various stakeholders to develop a new and more sustainable faculty model. So we've worked with a wide range of groups representing many very important constituencies in higher education. You can see here some of the different types of groups that we've worked with, and we're very pleased to have had the opportunity to partner with Achieving the Dream in this work also. As I mentioned, the the numbers of adjunct faculty on campuses at community colleges tend to be a little bit higher, and that's generally always been the case. Community colleges started to sort of see this shift in the academic workforce before a lot of other types of institutions. But we really believe that working with this wide range of stakeholders is important to create the type of change that we need. So a common theme emerged throughout our research and our work with these different stakeholder groups. I'll give you just a really quick introduction to sort of the research that we did. We administered a 30 or so page survey to a group of 40 individuals representing those stakeholder groups that I had listed up before, and collected well over 1,000 pages of data about those sort of 3 areas of focus that I started out with. And then once we had sort of digested that survey data and summarized it and presented it back to the individuals who were participating in the initial study, we brought all of those individuals together to have a discussion about the points of convergence and divergence that emerged in the surveys, and to see what we could all do together to create some change. And one of the common themes that has come up in that work and with our work with other organizations and campuses since then is that really, although a single factor or group may sometimes be blamed for this trend, the reasons for these changes are actually very complex. What is clear is that in order to successfully address problems related to rising contingency in higher education, such as issues of employment equity and the adverse effects on student success outcomes that have been documented in some recent studies, we really need to help leaders among these different stakeholder groups to understand the problems and to work collaboratively with others to create the right conditions for change. So here today, we'll discuss several aspects relating to the nature of adjunct faculty work and their effects on student learning and student success. I hope we can also have a good conversation about some ways to better support adjunct faculty on campuses and in departments at the end of the call, including some examples from your campuses about work that you might already be doing. So adjunct faculty, I always want to make sure that I begin with a statement that adjunct faculty are skilled and committed educators. Some of the outcomes that have been documented in the research, I mentioned some adverse and negative outcomes, are really the result of some of the situations and conditions that they may face in their work that can affect how they provide support for their students. So you can see here some examples that we have collected and that we hear often from adjuncts and from administrators and other faculty who work alongside adjuncts around the country, different types of conditions that are common in adjunct work that may affect how they provide instruction and support of their students. So, when they're hired at the last minute, for example, they don't always have adequate time to prepare to teach their courses. They often don't have the same opportunities for training and professional development as full-time faculty do. They don't always receive teaching evaluations or feedback, especially from administrators or their peers, from their faculty peers. They may have limited opportunities to interact with their students outside of the classroom, and they also often have limited access to resources to support their instruction or different services on campus that may help them to improve. And they're not always fully involved in the life of the campus, including the campus governance system. You may have experienced or observed some of these conditions on your own campus. We're always very careful to say that no one campus is the same. So some of these items may be issues on your campus, and others may not be. So you may sort of some of these may be resonant with you, and hopefully we can help you to address some of those if they are. So, Sarah, if you can advance to the next slide. To give you a little bit of perspective on why it's important to work to address support for adjunct faculty, I wanted to reference some of these findings from recent research that elucidate some of the effects of rising numbers of non-tenure track faculty on our campuses, particularly the adjunct faculty, the part-time faculty, who may not receive the same or similar support to what's provided to full-time faculty. So research suggests rising numbers of adjunct faculty have contributed to diminished graduation and retention rates, transfer rates from 2- to 4-year institutions, lower grade point averages. And these effects are most prevalent among students in introductory, lower division, and remedial or developmental courses. So the reason why we wanted to ask some of those initial poll questions is to kind of get a feel for the percentage of adjunct faculty who are teaching those types of courses, because a lot of the research suggests that's where the greatest effects that are felt by rising contingency are seen. So you can see some of these. A lot of these studies were conducted in a community college environment. So these you may have seen some of these same effects on your own campuses, but these are some of the effects that have been documented. So the Delphi Project has created a number of resources that might be helpful for you to consider if you're beginning to consider changes on your campus or in your college or department, or if you've already started to do some work and you're sort of looking for some new areas to expand your support for your adjunct faculty. I wanted to make a brief note about our campus and department discussion guides here in the webinar. These resources have been created to help you to better understand some of the conditions on your campus and to create opportunities to discuss the implications of current policies and practices, and really opportunities for change on your own terms, and to consider the unique local context on your campus. The guides are sort of, they're fairly long, they're comprehensive documents, but they're meant to stimulate and start a conversation on your campus. And we've created supplementary guides also. So we've got a campus level and a department level guide. We've also created some supplementary guides for Centers for Teaching and Learning and institutional researchers to also understand how they can be a part of the process. You can see here some of the different topics that are covered in those guides. Oftentimes, we try to be really comprehensive here because we find sometimes that you may be aware of certain aspects of the problem, but if you can ask sort of a broader set of questions and explore these issues more deeply, you may learn and come to find that there are other related issues on your campus that are sort of connected to the issues that you're aware of that you might not have yet considered. So these are some of the different areas that we've covered in the 2 guides. And on the next slide, I've included some sample questions. You can see here that the types of questions, and I sort of pulled these questions from different sections of our campus level guide. You can see that they range from more specific questions to identify what's needed, to better understand the conditions on your campus, the types of situations that adjunct faculty face, such as sort of a need for more data and more information from adjunct faculty about the types of challenges that they encounter, to questions about the influence of campus values and culture, and reflective questions that will help you to think through some of the implications for teaching and learning. So the guides can be of use for you, as I mentioned before, whether you're beginning to think about how to change your policies and practices to better support your adjunct faculty, if you've already started to have that conversation and you're looking for some other areas where you can improve. So another part of our recent work, as Carol and Sarah mentioned at the top of the call, has been to try to learn a little bit more about campuses that are doing really good work around the country to provide better support for their adjunct faculty so that we can share and promote some example practices for other campuses to model. Like one of the things that we hear sometimes when we work with colleges around the country is that they kind of just don't know where to get started. They don't have a template for action. They don't know of other examples that they can work from. And one of the reasons why we started to profile some of these positive practices is to start to sort of build a base of resources for those campuses that are looking for some help to get started but don't really know. And there's no better way to do that than to share some of the good examples that exist. So as I mentioned at the top, William Rainey Harper College and their Center for Adjunct Faculty Engagement is the first of a series of example practice cases that you'll find on our website. This particular case is already on our website, so I'd encourage you to go to that website after the webinar and take a look at the case study. The CAFE program was initially created to standardize and improve adjunct faculty teaching evaluations and provide access to better professional development opportunities for the adjunct faculty at Harper College. But the success of the center has really sort of blossomed and expanded into into a range of other areas. And I'm sure Barb will agree and tell us here a little bit about how it's helped to build relationships among adjuncts, tenure-track faculty, administrators, and professional staff across campus and across colleges and offices on the campus, and has really resulted in some additional changes that have improved working conditions and support for adjuncts. Really, as I mentioned, that this started out as a response to concerns about teaching evaluations and was organized around and began as a program to begin to work with adjuncts who desired to enhance their teaching skills and knowledge about pedagogy, to create some new opportunities for professional development and to see some improvements in their own skills in the classroom. The faculty in the program receive individualized evaluation and feedback on their work from the CAFE program. And as I mentioned before, they have exposure to professional development programming. The CAFE program typically offers 20 workshops a year, which is great. Each of those lasts about 90 minutes, and they're typically offered during normal business hours, but also in the evening, and they're looking to expand to an online professional development program as well. And one of the things that I think is really important and that's really interesting and good about this program is that a lot of these workshops are actually led by adjunct faculty, and that's helped to contribute to and increase the comfort level that adjunct faculty have in participating in this program. CAFE has also worked really closely with their human resources department to make sure that they are able to communicate regularly with adjunct faculty about these programs, about other news and information services that need to be, information about services that need to be shared with adjunct faculty across the campus. Sometimes we hear that communication is a major obstacle, that it's sometimes hard when you have a population of faculty who may change every semester, every term, to stay in touch with them. The CAFE office also has space available where adjuncts can come together, access some of the resources such as copiers, computers, and telephones. They host open houses for their adjunct faculty. They have office space available that adjunct faculty can sort of check out or reserve to meet with students or have other sorts of meetings. And I'm sure Barb will tell us a little bit here about some of their current work. They are expanding and relocating and doing some additional work right now. But as I mentioned, really one of the things that impressed us the most about this is the level of success that they've had in really building some relationships across the campus and helping the different stakeholder groups and to understand the importance of supporting adjunct faculty, and they are always improving despite the good work that they're already doing. So, Barb, I see that your name is on the list here. I'm not sure if your audio is connected, but are you on?
I am not sure if it's connected
Barbara,
either.
Are you there?
I am here, but am I?
We
Yep,
can hear
you.
Great.
Okay, good. I have construction going on right outside my window, so if you hear a big cement mixer, that's what it is.
Do you want to weigh in a little bit, Barb, about your journey in the creation of this at Harper College and what went into that?
I certainly will. First of all, Dan did a really nice job of summarizing the program that we have here, and I appreciate that nice summary, Dan. I think one of the things that you said that was absolutely true is that we started out here with a charge from the president to make sure that adjunct faculty across the campus were all evaluated consistently, regardless of what division they were in. And that was kind of a daunting task because we have about 700 actively teaching adjunct faculty in any given semester. And CAFE is currently, we are just completing our 4th semester of existence, and we have just now gotten through all 700 adjuncts that are actively teaching. So they've all been evaluated over a 2-year period of time at least once. And I think one of the things that we found that we were really actually surprised at, those of us that are in the CAFE program, is that the post-conferences that we held following an evaluation in the classroom were just critical to the success of this program. And I think it's because when you sit down and you meet one-on-one with your adjunct faculty and talk about what's going on in their classroom, relationships are developed. You're able to provide access to various instructional strategies, materials, resources, and just really kind of create this energy, I think, around instruction. And that, I think, has really paid big dividends for us. And I think it has created a situation in which our adjuncts are much more, they see the value of going to professional development. It's allowed the CAFE administrators a chance to meet with adjuncts that we see doing outstanding work in the classroom and encouraging them to present their work to, other adjuncts. And so it's just paid enormous dividends. And it's that one-on-one connection, I think, that's huge. And like I say, it's time-consuming. At times it's arduous. At times it means lots of nights. But I think that's been a key to our success.
Great, thank you, Barb. You know, really, I can't say enough that how impressed we are with the work that you all have done, and that you are continuing to improve and expand the program. I think is really great, and again, really glad that we could feature this as our first. We're also working with other campuses, and really Achieving the Dream has offered us a lot of example campuses that are doing really good work. Patrick Henry Community College is another campus that I spoke with recently that's sort of doing some similar work around providing workshops and training to help adjuncts to learn how to use more engaged pedagogy in the classroom, and to really sort of listen to adjunct faculty and hear a little bit about what they want and need to help to make sure that the needs of the faculty are met so that they can provide the very best support that they can for their students. I've listed on this slide here some other examples of types of positive practices that we often hear about from campuses around the country, and that you might be working on already, or that you might think about providing. The Harper College case that Barb and I just mentioned obviously has a lot of professional development opportunities and workshops and mentoring sort of built into it. You may also see that there are, I know Barb is doing a little bit of this, there are benefits to recognizing adjuncts service alongside full-time faculty. So often there are rewards and recognitions that are provided for full-time faculty. A lot of your adjuncts have probably been working on your campuses for many years as well, and it's important to make sure that they feel that they're a part of the campus and that their service is recognized as well. Harper College is also having discussions among their leadership about improving support for adjuncts. I know that Barb meets with other deans and leaders on campus to make sure that there is an ongoing and constant discussion about how to better provide support. It's also important sometimes that you hear from adjuncts about issues of curriculum development, curriculum design. Since they're in the classroom and they're working with students, they understand the needs of students in a way that can really contribute to the development and design of programming, academic programming in your campuses. And one of the other things that I think is really great that they've been able to do at Harper College is to create some space where adjuncts can come together, they can access resources, they can use office space, and they can interact with other faculty. We know that that's really important, to have opportunities to interact with your colleagues and peers, to learn about what's going on in other classes and other departments and programs, to integrate some new ideas and to share and to work collaboratively to improve the curriculum and programming, and to learn about the different types of services and programming that are available for faculty to improve their work, but also that are available for students.
Great.
So we've got
thanks so much. Dan, yeah, we have some time, and I'd love to open it up to questions or comments from our participants. Any questions for Dan or Barb, or any comments on what you're doing at your college to increase the engagement of faculty and adjunct faculty and staff in your student success movement. As a reminder, there are two ways you can ask questions. You can raise your hand, or you can go ahead and type the question into the question pane. So any questions you might have for Dan or Barb, how they went about creating their program? Barb, I have a quick question for you. I'm wondering what kind of resources and funding went into the work that you did at Harper College, because I know that that's often an issue, and so could you comment a little bit about that?
I can say that it was fairly limited. I know that budget is always a concern. I think that's one of the reasons why when we were doing professional development, one of the things that we were not given money for is to reimburse adjuncts that attended those professional development sessions with stipends or any other kind of monetary reimbursement. One of the things that we were able to offer is food, which is always an attraction, and that helped a lot. But it also really made a difference that we used our own adjuncts to present a lot of the professional development sessions that we put out each semester for other adjuncts. And it just seemed like one of the things that really helped us on a limited budget was using the resources that we had right here within the college, whether it was other adjuncts or other administrators or directors of programs here at the college. I know that's always an ongoing concern, and programs like ours oftentimes operate on a fairly limited budget. But I think if you keep your eye on the goal of building relationships, I think those things can be overcome.
Thanks, Barb. And I actually, while you were speaking, received a comment from one of our Press for Completion colleges, Northern Essex Community College, and the comment there was that their experience with press has found that the adjunct faculty are quote-unquote hungry for professional development opportunities, and that small stipends and food can really attract many adjuncts. Are your adjuncts paid for their professional development opportunities at Harper?
No, they're not. And we just didn't have the budget to do that. And so, as I say, we provide food. I think the other thing we really try to do is we time limit professional development to 90 minutes, because we realize often our adjuncts are employed in more than one place. Harper's not the only school they're teaching at, and sometimes they have a full-time job actually outside of education. So one of the things we try to do is make our professional development as user-friendly as possible. And we always provide a pizza buffet. That's kind of been a tradition here. We try to vary the times. We'll repeat programs different days and different times, including nights. That's made a difference. We also found that programs that we did in professional development that had to do with anything outside of classroom instruction did not get nearly as much attention. For example, we did something on the strategic plan and what was going on, kind of an overview of what's happening at Harper. What our adjuncts seem to really tune into is what's going on in terms of delivery of curriculum and classroom instruction. And when we focused in on that, our numbers went up in terms of attendance.
Yeah, and
thanks,
Barbara.
Oh, go ahead,
I really want to point out. I really want to point out that we always hear a common concern is that our budgets are all constrained. We don't have a lot of resources to be able to provide programming, or to provide better pay and benefits, or whatever it might be. But the Harper College case really sort of points out that they've been able to do a lot with the limited resources that they have. And Barb didn't mention this, but despite the fact that they're not able to provide stipend, they've really had a great deal of success. And when we spoke about your programming the first time, Barb, I was really impressed. the number of adjunct faculty who are showing up to these programs. And as Sarah mentioned from the comment that one of you submitted, really adjunct faculty are very interested and very, I think the word was hungry to have this professional development support and have opportunities to learn and improve and to better support their students. So even when you can't provide a stipend, if you can provide some sort of inducements or incentives for faculty to come to this program, I think that you'll see that they will in numbers, they'll be engaged, and they'll be really actively a part of those workshops to improve and to be able to better support their students.
Dan, can I make one more comment?
Sure.
I just was, one of the things I think that we have found in our evaluations of our professional development workshops is that adjuncts really cherish the opportunity to just get to know each other. What we found was that many of them teach at night and they teach in isolation, and so oftentimes they'd come in and they would be delighted to meet somebody else that's teaching the same or a related course, and to have that opportunity just to talk about the curriculum and how they're presenting it and student reactions. That was something that we really hadn't anticipated that actually was kind of a secondary gain. The other thing that I think we have discovered at Harper is that we're sort of trying to figure out where we go now with professional development, and I think one of the things that's key to figuring out sort of what we can do to continue to engage adjunct faculty is the chairs and coordinators, and meeting with them and working with them on their individual programs in terms of what they see also as professional development needs among the adjuncts teaching in their program. They have been just a huge resource for CAFE. The chairs and coordinators have really helped to encourage their adjuncts to attend professional development, and out of those connections, I think they feel that their programs are stronger and that they are gaining a better idea of what professional development they should offer or ask CAFE to offer.
Thanks for weighing in on that. That's really great information, Barb. And just I sent a chat to everyone, but we're just going to go a little bit over so that we can finish this discussion a little bit. I have a question here about the communication to adjuncts and getting their. They're saying that they have trouble getting adjuncts' attention, and so are there any creative ideas out there to enhance this communication?
Yeah, well, one of the issues on a lot of campuses is that sometimes adjunct faculty don't have email addresses, so that's an important first step. If your adjunct faculty don't have email addresses through the institution, or if you don't have some other way of accessing them by email, I think that's really important. And one of the things that Barb and her team at Harper College have done is to work with human resources to make sure that they're able to communicate via email. But I think it's really important that any of the communication that goes out is goes on a continual basis, engages the faculty, provides them with updates and information about services and programs on the campus, changes and support. I know that at Harper, one of the things that they've done that's really good is to invite in all of the different programs that provide academic support to students on campus to speak with adjuncts and to do some of these workshops to help the faculty to sort of understand the services that are available and to just kind of keep an ongoing conversation and be in the habit of providing news, updates, and information to adjunct faculty in addition to information about the workshops that are going on. So, if you don't yet have a way to reach out to your adjunct faculty on a regular basis, you can work with your human resources department or find other ways to make sure that you can do that.
Thanks for that, and I'm getting some nice comments here in the chat section, and then perhaps we'll move on and close up. But Community College of Baltimore County said that they offered adjunct faculty learning community, which was a year-long monthly cohort focused on writing enhanced courses, and they said that it was a really great experience for them. So that's another model that seems to be out here. I have another good point from one of our leadership coaches, actually about food. The comment is that, you know, it's not always the food, but that the convenience of having the food, since often meal times are the only times when people can go ahead and get together and have these conversations. I'm just going to do a last call for questions, and then we'll probably go ahead and close up here since we're already late. I don't see any more questions, but this is obviously an ongoing, very important conversation, and so Achieving the Dream will think about different formats to continue this conversation. You know, the Delphi Project, the Changing Faculty, has been great at helping us do this, and so we'll definitely look into that. With that, I want to turn it over to Carol to go ahead and finish off the webinar, and thank you for sure to Dan and Barb for all their great input. Carol?
Well, thank you, Sarah, and thank you again, Dan and Barb. We really appreciate it. You held your audience, so this has got to be a topic that everybody really cares about. We'll be posting this recorded webinar very, very shortly on our website, so those of you who want to share it with other colleagues will have that opportunity. We will also wanted to let you know that, again, next month we are going to open up the Leader College webinar to the network, the whole network, because we have another topic that we think is of importance across the whole network. The next webinar will be June 6th from 12:30 to 1:15 Eastern Time. We've invited the Council for Adult and Experiential Learning, also known as CALE, to be with us and talk about the work that they do related to prior learning assessments. They have tools for helping colleges award credit for previous learning, and they are anxious, of course, to help any of our colleges strengthen your ability to give students the opportunities to apply for and receive academic credit for things they've done possibly in the military or in other areas of their life. So we'll send out registration later on for the whole network in a follow-up email with more details. With that, I'm going to say thank you. Sarah, we did not get a chance to do a quick poll on evaluating the webinar. Did you want to do that, or did you want to skip that?
Well, if people want to humor me, I was being cognizant of time, but I'm happy to go ahead and launch that poll.
Why don't you launch it? I see we still have a good number on. Why don't you quickly launch it? As soon as we get the results, so we have that feedback, we will close this down.
Great, thank you. I'll go ahead and launch that now. There we go. So we have the evaluation poll up. And if you want to go ahead and let us know what you think, we'll take your feedback and figure out ways to improve our process and continue what works. Great. Going to give just a few more seconds to hopefully get everyone voting. All right, I'm going to close the polls and go ahead and share those results. Great. Well, it does appear that this was a useful and informative conversation. You want to go ahead and comment, Carol?
I was just going to say those are really good feedback numbers, and so it reinforces what we believe is that this is a topic that we've really all got to keep on pressing on, and thank you so much again to Dan and Barb for helping us. Thank you to everybody who participated today. We hope you all have great graduation ceremonies, and look forward to talking to most of you again if you can join us on June 6th. Thanks so much.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
The organizer has